Okay, so now we are going to go through the balance workshop curricula and all of the activities. So starting with the workshop sequence, Elizabeth, do you want to take us through the workshop sequence?
Yes. So, okay, workshop sequence: engage, read, explore, reflect. Engage is usually some sort of a quick activity to like bring people into the thing, get them interested in what you're doing, and get them into sort of the mindset of the topic and scientific curiosity. Read is that very quick story time. Explore is either doing the activities all as a group, or if you've set up the stations, and then reflect at the end. Yes, as it says, I'm not going to read that to you. You all can read.
Yeah.
All right. So engage. We are going to be doing weight and balance. So this is for body balancing. So if any of you picked up yoga, if you already did yoga, or you picked it up during the pandemic, now's your time to shine. So yeah, so that's when you could ask them to do some poses. Have you ever balanced something? What does it feel like to lose your balance? You can all stand on one foot and see who can hold their balance the long. What do you feel like when you're balancing on one foot? What do you do to stay balanced? Is it easier with your arms up, your arms out? Which is easier? Why do you think it's easier in some ways? What do you think happens when you lose your balance? You ask those questions. This is a great thing. Kids are coming in and they're just going to naturally gravitate to you and start doing these poses, and you're all having fun, and it's big, huge body motions, and you're engaging all of those senses, and it's a really great way to focus the kids. And I know someone mentioned, everyone's like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you, I haven't seen you, I haven't seen you. This sort of brings everyone into that. And here's my other tip. If you've got parents who aren't connecting and doing it with their kids, they're standing back and watching their kids. And I will admit this is an ableist attitude, so please adjust as needed. You can, hey, kids, can you go challenge your grown-ups? See which of you can balance on one foot the longest. And that pushes those kids to participate with their parents. As I said, again, this is ableist. It does assume a certain level of physical ability within all adults and children. But there's definitely adaptations about you can make for this. And so after we've done our big body motions, we are going to read together. There are 2 books. I was like, hey, all right, let's sit down. There are 2 books. Mirette on the High Wire is a fantastic book. Love Emily McCully. I'm going to read you a few pages from that. She is a Caldecott winner. Can we go back one page yet? She's a Caldecott winner. She's won the Caldecott for this one. This is a super long book. This may not work with your younger groups. This may not work with your ANSI groups. This is going to work great with probably a lot of your school age kids, your 2nd to 5th, they're going to love it. The younger kids, this may not work, in which case Ellen Walsh is fantastic for preschool audiences. She also has a Caldecott for a different book. But yeah, Emily McCully, I'm going to say is going to be your school age one, and Ellen Walsh is your preschool one. All right, now we can go. So we're going to read a little bit of Emily McCully. As you can see, it is pretty long. And in the library world, we call this dialogic reading. Here, I don't remember what term they use, but the idea is to ask questions as you're reading. So this is a story about a high wire walking family. Mirette worked up the courage to speak. Excuse me, Monsieur Bellini, I want to learn to do that, she cried. Bellini sighed. Can you sigh with me? Everyone sigh with me. That would not be a good idea, he said. Once you start, your feet are never happy again on the ground. Oh, please teach me, Mirette begged. My feet are already unhappy on the ground. But he shook his head. Mirette watched him every day. He would slide his feet onto the wire, cast his eyes ahead, and cross without ever looking down, as if in a trance. Hey, friends, what do you see? How is he holding his arms? Oh, he's holding them out? Yeah, that's because... remember when we did our big body balances? Was it easier with your arms out? Yeah, I think so too. So that's a question you can ask as you're reading this book. Finally, she couldn't resist any long. When Bellini was gone, she jumped on the wire to try it herself. Her arms flailed like windmills. In a moment, she was back on the ground. Bellini made it look so easy. Surely she could do it if she kept trying. Have you guys ever tried something new? Did you get it the first time? Oh yeah, I usually have to try a bunch. Remember, it's not yet. Not that you can't do it. You can't do it yet. In 10 tries. Oh, in 10 tries, she balanced on one foot for a few seconds. 10 tries. She tried so many times. In a day, she managed 3 steps without wavering. Finally, after a week of many, many falls, she walked the length of the wire. She couldn't wait to show Bellini. She had to try. And this is a good point where you could ask questions about trying and that continuing the failing and trying, which is a part of science, as well as, resilient skills for kids. Next. Thank you, Kristen. I love reading to kids. It's my favorite thing. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, in the beginning, everyone falls. Most give up. But you kept trying. Perhaps you have a talent as well. Oh, thank you, Mirouette said. She got up 2 hours earlier every day to finish her chores before the sun shone in the courtyard. The rest of the day was for lessons and practice. Bellini was a strict master. Never let your eyes stray, he told her day after day. Think only of the wire and crossing to the end. When she could cross dozens of times without falling, he taught her the wire walker salute. Then she learned to run, to lie down, and to turn a somersault. I will never fall again, Mirouette shouted. Do not boast, Bellini said so sharply that Mirouette lost her balance and had to jump down. Have you ever been scared? Did you jump back? Did you fall over? Yeah, sometimes our balance goes when we're scared, huh? So, yep, that is reading. I'm going to turn it back over to Lily. Like I said, that is a longer book, but it's a super fun book. So, yeah, choose the one that you think is going to work for your kids.
Thanks so much, Elizabeth. Okay. So starting with the family workshops, I'm going to try and go through this pretty fast because the instructions are there for you guys, and you guys are all experienced after schoolers. So I'll not spend too long going through all this, but as usual, family workshop, it's encouraged to do the stations if you have caregivers there to help, but you can choose whichever one you want. You can do a station format or a structured format where you go through all the activities together. Self-directed guide from the side, and of course with both of these formats you do a group reading, the activities, and then the reflection at the end. And make sure you take advantage of these cards because these are really nice. If you do have kids spread out, you can have these instructions laid out for them really simply at each station. So station 1 is similar to our engage portion. You're going to do balance challenges where you try to stand on one foot, try to stand on your tiptoes, try a yoga position with the warrior one, see photo. Yeah, perfect. And ask questions all throughout this. Use your core 4. There's the beanbag body challenge where you stand with your heels against the wall and try to pick up a beanbag. This is a really simple activity, and it teaches kids about their balance and their center of gravity, allowing them to kind of feel when their center of gravity isn't positioned correctly to do something and why they have to step forward to pick up the beanbag. But you can also adapt this to make it more fun. You can have, tossing the beanbag and trying to jump to pick it up on like one foot. That one's a little, maybe for older kids, if they're going to be bored by this, adapt it and make it your own. There's a lot of fun beanbag games you can play that involve balance. And then station 2, balancing objects. So you guys have these cardstock balancing girls. You can put paper clips on them and show how they balance. Again, teaching about, the main the concept is balance, but also for older kids, you can talk about center of gravity and why that matters in terms of balance. And I will also say, Elizabeth is going to go through this later, but all of the concepts and the material that you're actually teaching, like the scientific concepts, are laid out really clearly in terms that kids can understand in your curriculum packet that you have in your kit and that you can get online. So make sure you take advantage of that too. And then also finding the balancing points on different objects like rulers and things like that. So station 3, you guys should all have balancing games, either Rocking Clown or the I think it's called Chicky Boom. So these games are really fun and easy to use, and they're good for all ages, I think. So that's a really fun thing. And then some more balancing toys like these birds that balance even though they're on one side. This is a good time to have the kids look and encourage them to ask questions, you know, to just say like, oh, here's this bird, look how cool it is. Like, point out the fact that it's like, why might it still be able to balance even though it looks as though most of the bird is on one side here. So it's a great opportunity to spark curiosity, and it's good to take advantage of those opportunities and not miss them. So station 4, balancing structures. Again, this is kind of a craft station, and it might be more well suited for older kiddos. So you can run this station in parallel with the young scientist station if you want. It's totally up to you what you guys want to do at your own program. Do whatever works best. At this station, they get a chance to make a balancing sculpture out of all the materials that are in that gallon bag in your kit. So the little clothespins, there's rubber bands, paper clips, and a lot of buttons, things like that. And what are these called? Chanel stems. I always called them pipe cleaners when I was little. Now they're Chanel stems. So I don't know why that changed, but anyway. And then of course, this is a cool activity. They get to make a leaning tower out of those little foam discs that are in their kit. And again, good opportunity to ask, you know, can you make a leaning tower like the Tower of Pisa? How come the Tower of Pisa doesn't fall over? Why do you think that is? They are still pipe cleaners, at least to me. Yeah, thank you, Kristen. Yeah, so these are both really cool activities. Some of them might be a little bit more advanced than others, like this leaning tower one. That's kind of, you know, a challenge to get them to build something that leans, it doesn't fall over. Encourage them to be creative though. They don't have to just make a one leaning tower. They can make any kind of balancing structure that they want that is interesting to them and sparks curiosity. Station 5 is very fun. This is for young scientists, and they get to build a really cool teeter-totter out of egg cartons. And there's a little pack of animals. You can use the buttons for this activity too. They get to just experiment and use this teeter-totter to kind of learn about balance. You can pair this station also with the younger kids book, the Balancing Act book. I forget who it's by, but because this is directly related to that concept. They see in the book the teeter-totter that the mouses are playing on, and they can directly mimic that with this station. So it's a really good tie-in, and it works really well. And it's you use it making a small funnel and sticking a small funnel inside of a peg clothespin. It works super great. There's instructions in your kit on how to put that together, and you'll want to have them set up probably before, just because it takes a while to get it all to fit right and to balance correctly. So you won't want the kids to make it themselves. You'll want to have that ready. And then station 6, as usual, is read and reflect. So just giving kids a chance to have, you know, do whatever kind of activity they want, to talk about what they learned, especially if you're having trouble bringing kids back for a reflection. I know I think a couple people have said, you know, after everyone's gone doing the activities, it's really hard to bring everyone back together. The reflection can happen during the stations, and that's a good way, or at any point in the you know, reflecting should happen throughout, I think. So doing reflection as a part of the stations is, I think, an important way to kind of get around that. You don't have to bring everyone back together as a group before you finish out the activity. Yeah, left out a station with lots of books. That's great. Because I'm sure you guys, a lot of you are librarians, so I'm sure you guys know about way more books than I do that have to do with balance. So definitely take advantage of this and have a station with books where families can read together. So yeah, great. And that is all of our stations. I'm going to take you through options for the structured activities. Again, for 6 to 10, Moret on the High Wire is the recommended book. So if your kids are in that age range, Moret is a great option. explore using a balanced sculpture, building a balanced sculpture. That can include either the balanced sculptures out of the Chanel stems or out of the foam disc, making that leaning tower. So this is they get to do their own craft and then reflect using What is a Scientist. This is your book that you got in your first Light and Shadow kit. So we only sent all of you one copy, and that copy was in your Light and Shadow kit, just to remind you. And then 3 to 5, balancing act is really good. And again, it relates directly to these teeter-totters that they can make and play with on their own. So it's a really good direct tie-in that they can learn about that concept of balance, both from the book and then just see it in real life right away and explore with it. And then, of course, reflect using What is a Scientist, and emphasizing the things that they did in that activity that make them a scientist, and see that those things that they did are what scientists do in real life. So, okay, and I'm going to pass it over to Elizabeth to talk a little bit more about what is a scientist. Thank you, Elizabeth.
So again, I'm going to say, we did not manage to pull everybody back into one big group at the library. What I did at the public when we did Light and Shadow is I just stopped the kids as they were leaving, and I said, how were you like a scientist today? Or I said, what did you observe? What did you try that worked? What experiment did you try that succeeded? So I literally asked questions twice. It actually kind of drives my husband nuts. He's like, you say everything twice. And I'm like, yes, I say it once with complex vocabulary and once simply. And he's like, could you turn it off when you're talking to me? And I was like, probably not. It's really ingrained right now. So what I am thinking about doing for, this is questionable copyright, so go with me. What I'm thinking about doing for the larger one is blowing up some of these pages. And as you're going out of the room, we have a whiteboard that greets you as you come in the room that sort of introduces all of the things that we'll be doing. It posts the questions. And on the back side of it, because it's one of the big ones on wheels, I was thinking about blowing up a couple of pages from What is a Scientist and writing some question prompts so that in case I miss you on your way out, you see that and you ask yourself, what is a scientist? How was I a scientist today? On the off chance that I don't. And that's a little bit like setting it up as that final station. I think I got what I was supposed to get. There we go. There are great question guides. One of the things I was saying to my small group when we did breakout groups is we didn't have enough staff to have staff at every station. So we turned a lot of those question guides, we printed them out and made them into table tents along with the table tents of the instructions, and we added them to the stations so that caregivers, because we're in a library, we had the caregivers and the kids together, they had an option of a way to do it, the questions that they knew they were supposed to be asking each other and asking their kids, a little bit of guidance. The curriculum guide includes all the workshop instructions. It includes the question guides, options for the alternate books, lots of great stuff. And it's printed and it's in your kit, which is fantastic. Oh, I love Shauna in the chat. If you didn't see it, she said using sticky notes to write reflections on the way out works, which is a fantastic idea. I might steal it. You have that big whiteboard or whatever you're using, a notebook, and if you leave sticky notes and a pen, we use that for other programs. I love that, Shauna, and I'm probably going to steal that for our February event so they could write it and add it to the board. If you do that, if anybody else does that, please take a pictures and share it with us. We'd love to see it. It's also a fun way to share what happened on your social media without having to grab kids' faces and photo releases. And the goals. I don't remember, Lily, when I'm passing this over to you, so just wave at me when it's your turn and I should stop talking. So the goals for the program is first have fun learning together. There's sometimes this mythos around like science projects with kids have to be super formal and hard and take special equipment. And I can't do that with my kid. Like, I'm just this lady. I just have a kid. That's a lot. But what you're modeling is a very simple, none of the stuff we use is super specialized. It's a very simple and fun way to learn together, to think scientifically using those core 4 strategies, which even if you never tell the parents what the core 4 strategy are, they're going to get the idea of the questions and the vocabulary. And then just building a positive attitude about being a scientist and towards science in and among our community. So yeah. No, we're not teaching content mastery. We are, I think most of us are after school libraries, other types of providers. I don't think there are any formal educators here who are trying to hit state standards, which is super freeing and really fun. And your goal, your knowledge, your skills, some of these skills will probably translate into other programs you do with other things, other ways. You'll find yourself asking open-ended questions with rich dialogue and be like, oh, I still do that. And hopefully just have confidence and collaborate with some other fun people. Yeah, and your goal is to lead engaging, yeah, you can read expectations. And this one goes to Lilith, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I think we go over this every time. So make sure you're comfortable with the materials. Make sure you read the book interactively. Really try and ask questions as you're reading the book. Use the core 4 strategies, but as we went over today, use them in a way that works best for you. If you're noticing things that work better for your program, go with that. You guys are the experts in your own field, so use core 4, but use them how you think works best, and it's okay to adapt them to your own facilitation styles or add to them. That's great too. Engage all participants inclusively and treat adults as learners. This is a great way to kind of, bring adults back into because I know I think it's normal that as adults are coming back, everyone's seeing each other again after, a long time of kind of a lot of social isolation. So it's normal that adults are a little chatty, but treating adults as the learners and talking to them about the concepts of what's going on and about the activity is a great way to kind of pull them back and pull them in and get them to kind of engage a little bit more with the young learners. What is flexible? Everything else, materials, supplement activities. You can add anything you want to this, including books, including other activities that you think would be fun. The length of the workshop is totally flexible. I think the stations do take quite a bit longer if you're doing all of them. And as people have pointed out before, some kids are engaged for a long time, some of them for not as long. So whatever works best. The sequence, that's okay too. Reflection can happen earlier if you aren't or if you're having trouble bringing kids back at the end of the activity. And then of course the number of attendees is also. Okay, expectations and resources. I'll start by saying, remember to use leap.fi.edu. There's so many cool resources on this site. Take advantage of it while you can, download everything while you have access to this, the leap.fi.edu. Your curriculum guide is on here, and that's under this curricula tab. This is probably the most useful thing because it's a big packet. You have it printed out, but it's always good to have a digital copy in case things go missing, because sometimes they do. Videos are great. The handbook has all of your expectations in it too. Handbook is really long though, so if you have any questions, you don't necessarily need to go through this. You can just email me or Elizabeth or whatever. And of course your Connectory guide, and then the links for the activity reports and the Connectory. I know we went over this last time. I wanted to include this slide just in case people are still having trouble. Leap can be a little, leap.fi.edu can be a little finicky. If you're having trouble getting signed on, just use the reset your password feature, and then check your spam for the reset password email. For some reason, a lot of Leap emails go to spam, and I think they're maybe a little bit better about that now, but this is a common problem. So just use the reset password feature and remember to check your spam if anyone's having trouble getting logged on. And then of course you can always email me if you have any problems with that. Workshop/activity reports. I know Thomas pointed out to me at the beginning that the workshop report is really confusing terminology because this is not our workshop, this is our training. The workshops are the activities that you guys hold at your organization. making sure that's cleared up. I think we did clear that up last time, but just making sure everyone knows that. Again, you access that on the LEAP site under the Educator tab. So this is where all your links are that you need to access. And I want to emphasize the workshop reports are the one thing that's pretty essential for you guys to fill out. I know we give you a ton of stuff to fill out and a ton of, I don't know, you've had surveys and you've had the Connectory and all that. Make sure you fill out your workshop report, because that's the thing that's our reporting that's required for us to be in compliance with our Leap into Science grant. So after you hold an activity at your organization, make sure you fill out a workshop report. And it's a really simple Google form. So if you have any trouble, you can just email me. So it's very short too. It's not long. It's not a real report. It's kind of just a short survey. Connectory is super fun. You guys have been really good about posting on the Connectory, and I really appreciate you guys doing that, especially with tech challenges. I want to go over that really quick. Mainly, I think I just want to emphasize, we had a participant who was having trouble getting signed on. The email was not coming through. Their confirmation email wasn't coming through, and I couldn't figure it out either. So they just emailed info@theconnectory.org, and they were super responsive and very helpful, I think. Yeah, so I would see, and you feel free to CC me on the email if you do email info@theconnectory.org. So use this, and you can CC me too if you have any tech challenges, and they're very helpful. So take advantage of that and CC me. That way, you know, I'm on there just as an extra person if they turn out to not be responsive or not be helpful. Yeah. So and remember to try and post a while before, because that's what it's meant to do, is post before you have your workshop. Don't panic too much about the Connectory though. It's been a little challenging for some people, but try to do that. And you guys have been really good about that. So thank you for doing that. Okay, next month is Leap into Science Week. So it's February 21st through the 27th, that whole week. The 5 weekdays are probably what we're going to be working with more. This is a really good opportunity for us as the After School Network, as well as for us as a Leap into Science team, with all of our participants, to promote STEM learning in out of school time and talk about why it's important, the effect that it has on the youth, you know, the positive impact it can have. So this is something that all of you can participate in. All of you can post about Leap into Science, your Leap into Science activities during Leap into Science Week. You don't necessarily have to hold any of your, even though some of you are, which is great, but you don't necessarily have to hold a Leap into Science activity during Leap into Science Week. We encourage that, but you can also just post about how well your activities went during that week, and post some kiddos having fun. This is actually the balance workshop right here. Having fun, engaging in science at your program. And of course, use, you know, at Franklin Institute, National Girls Collaborative Project, and Alaska After School Network, hashtag Leap into Science, all that. I also want to emphasize we're going to do our own campaign for Leap into Science. So what we need most of all from you is photos of kids engaged at Leap into Science at your workshops, at your programs. Because this is a great way to show that that Leap into Science is going well. Like you guys said, like, it's hopefully a very joyful activity that kids are enjoying and getting something out of. So if you're able to, we ask that you send your photos. You can send them just to my email at AmeriCorps2@alaskachildrentrust.org. You guys all have my email. And yeah, just send in your photos, send in how your workshops went. You know, you could just include what you included in your workshop report. Yeah, because this is really helpful. It's like I said, it's Leap into Science Week is a really good opportunity for us to promote STEM learning in Alaska, that's great. So it's a good opportunity. We don't want to miss it. So we need your help to do this. And if you can, send in some photos of kids engaging in STEM at your workshops. So thank you so much for that in advance. Okay, last but not least, updates. I know you guys wanted one more thing to fill out for us. You guys were just wanted one last thing to have to fill out for Leap into Science. And they do have an annual educator survey, which I emailed to you before. I'll email it to you again after this. This is administered by the evaluators for Leap into Science, the people who evaluate the National Leap into Science program, not me, but the people who lead the state leader cohorts. So it's important. If you guys have time to fill this out, please do, because it's really important that you guys are the educators. You guys are the ones who are actually administering these workshops. They really need to hear from you guys about what's working and what isn't. So it's super helpful if you guys can fill out these surveys and give your feedback on what's working and what isn't. So do that if you are able to, if you have some time in your busy days. Important as well, the Leap into Science closing session, which we had originally scheduled for March 18th. I know we've had a lot of reschedules as we've gone through this process, but March 18th isn't going to work for a lot of our libraries. So we thought it would be best to reschedule for, I think that should be March 25th. I think that's like an actual typo in the slide. It was March 25th, right, Elizabeth? Sorry about that. It is March 25th. Sorry, that I totally meant to type March 25th and it does not say that. So March 25th, Friday again. So it's going to be just a week after, directly next Friday. And it'll be at 9 a.m. Alaska time, just as usual. And as usual, I will send out an invite for this in our follow-up email. So you'll get that too. All this information you'll get in your follow-up email. Okay, any questions? That we're doing good. I'm glad we were able to get through, but this gives us a lot of time for you guys to give any feedback, questions, feedback from previous workshops, anything you guys want to share, any concerns you have. Yeah. Anything at all, feel free to just come off mute.
This is James here in Kenai. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I think I finally got everything up and running here. Yeah, I was just going to mention that from earlier conversations, people were mentioning about trying to adapt the program to virtual, and Kenai did that for the Light and Shadows, and we were distributing the materials through our circulation desk or through curbside, and informing patrons of the time, and the Zoom meeting information actually came stapled onto the bags with the materials. And so they were having everything there. And then they would sign on. It was a great program. I think we ended up distributing about half of what we predicted would join, but it was still nice to see all those families, pick up the materials. And then we did mention, if you can bring them back, it's certainly understandable if you're not able to get them back, but everyone brought them back to our surprise. So all those materials came back to us, and we're excited because we want to offer that again. Now Kenai is starting to allow in-person programming. So for WIND, next week, we're presenting the WIND program. Excited that we can actually set up the stations and do everything that way and have kids actually in our building. And so I was just going to mention a couple of, one thing, my coworker and I, who are going to be running the program, we do love puppet shows. So when Elizabeth was talking about Engage, like the big thing that we try and do in summer reading program, and now for these science classes, we're trying to do these little puppet shows to engage. So we call them Eugene and Beatrice, but they're going to talk about how they're scientists and it's all about wind. And then of course, Eugene wants to break wind somehow. But anyway, so there's comedic elements. And anyway, so that was just one thing I was going to throw out, that puppets weren't really mentioned, but it seems like a good way to engage the kids.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's absolutely great. And I think it's great that you guys, I'm glad that you guys are bringing your own innovation to this activity, because, there's so much that can be done with it. It can be spread out to like wind, like light and shadow. There's so many ways to teach this stuff, and you guys have experience that, that I definitely don't. So yeah, that sounds awesome. And the idea of doing that hybrid system of, allowing, doing it virtual, allowing the take-home kits and having everything stapled on, that's a really good tip. Because having everything together like that definitely makes things simpler. And I'm glad Kenai is going back into person. That's great. That's really good news. And fingers crossed that you guys will be able to stay that way. I think that goes for all of us. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Any questions? Any questions or feedback from workshops?
There's a question in the chat about the end date that we can log into leap .fi. And you had said that we should get this information and download it if we can while we still have access. So is there an end date to when we will no longer have access to it?
I cannot guarantee that you'll always have access. I know that you will at least have access until the end of our grant period, which is May. I can confirm though, I'm not certain that they're going to take away your access. I'm not certain that you're going to have access to it. So that's a question that I need to take back to a LEAP support. So I should do that. But I know I can guarantee you'll have access through May because that's the end of our grant. Yeah, thank you for pointing out that question in the chat. Yeah. So yeah, either way, I would recommend downloading the materials that you want, because if you download them, then you definitely have them. But that's something that I can check back on, and I'll just let you guys know in an email or at the closing session. Either way, I'll let you guys know through both of those methods. So yeah, good question. Thank you, Shauna and Jerry. I'm going to unmute first, and then I'm going to put the sign in here again. Make sure you sign in. That helps us track attendance. So you can click that link and sign in now. As we're, I'm going to pass it over to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, do you have anything you want to add as we wrap up? Anything I missed?
I don't. I think you guys are all doing great, and I like being here with you because I feel like I've learned something every time working with you all. So thanks. Congratulations. You guys are doing fantastic. You're helping kids engage in science in the middle of a global pandemic. It's pretty cool. I feel like everything that we've done for the last 2 years should end with words "in the middle of a global pandemic" to put it into scale, because you've existed in this time and should get credit for that.
That is very true. Is the link not working? Oh my gosh. Did this, can I ask, did the sign in link work for anyone?
I signed in.
Okay.
Worked for me.
Maybe I'm, okay, I might have just pasted it wrong. One of the, I pasted it in.
Kristen, you might need to click, like the first screen I said it's taking you to not Zoom. Are you sure? And I had to click proceed, and then it took me to the Google thing.
Okay, it looks like she got it. Okay, perfect. That's good. I'm glad, you know, and I also pasted it in, like I was gonna say, like dozens of times. I might have deleted something once or something went wrong one of the times, and one of the links that's in there is incorrect. So that's a possibility too. Yeah, and if you can't sign in, don't worry. I mean, it's helpful for us, you know, to keep track of who was able to make it and who wasn't. So yeah, thanks again to all of you so much for being here. And thanks for everything you guys are doing, as Elizabeth said, in the middle of a global pandemic. So yeah. Okay, well, I guess I will see you guys. I'll see you guys next time. So bye, everyone.
Thank you, Elizabeth and Lily.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.